Buzz Lightyear is the first of 3 brawlers making his way into the next Brawl Stars update. Now, Buzz has 3 separate modes, and they all play like totally unique brawlers. Now, I'm going to pit all of these modes 1v1 versus every brawler in Brawl Stars to find out if these modes are any good and which one is the best. Spoiler alert, they're all really good, but one of these modes is vastly better than the others and is straight up bonkers level broken. Now, Buzz is a limited time brawler that will be coming to your game in just a few days in the Brawl a Day gifts. You'll get him fully maxed out on day 1 for free, so you don't need to buy anything. However, if you do decide to buy anything in the shop, I'd appreciate you using code LEX. Now, I'm going to show you every detail about every mode of his in this video, but first off, let's start off with his laser mode. In this mode, Buzz Lightyear has 6,000 hit points and fires a single long-range laser shot. It deals 2,320 damage and then places a damage over time burn on the target, dealing 160 damage per tick. Now, for his super, he fires off a bunch of smaller, less damaging lasers in a cone, dealing 1,000 damage each and once again leaving burn damage. Now, since laser mode is the long-range mode for Buzz, it seems only fair to see how well he does against all of the other marksmen. While his laser mode deals the same damage as a Brock rocket, he fires his shots off faster, which gives him the win. And while Piper deals more damage, once again he gets them off faster and Piper goes down first. B, however, never gets off her second shot as she loses, but Nani comes out just barely on top as he dies a split second before she does. Buzz unloads all 3 shots in the time it takes Bonnie to get off just 1, and while his reload is slow, it's just fast enough to pick up the win. Once again, Buzz's fast unload speed puts Belle down quickly for the win, and while Mandy's is faster, it's not fast enough. Maisie, however, unloads very fast and deals more damage with her recent buff and takes him down in 2 shots. Angelo just gets off 1 shot and, well, that's it, but Janet and Buzz are exceedingly close, although Buzz does barely win. And while I'm not going to show you all of the interactions for both Saber and Wing mode against the marksman, just know that they absolutely mop the floor with them. Like, it's not even remotely close. They just deal too much damage up close and it's just not a fair fight. But for laser mode versus the marksman, what about in a real game? Honestly, I like Buzz here a lot. I mean, does he deal the most damage? No. Does he have the longest range? Again, no, but he has an advantage in unload speed as well as his burn damage. If you get hit by Buzz as another marksman, you're not only going to have to contend with the high damage shot, because on top of that, there's going to be trickle damage keeping you from healing up, which puts you out of the fight for longer. Now, his speed is just normal speed in this mode, but in a long-range fight, if you can dodge just a single shot, and in turn you hit one, you are at a massive advantage. And to make that a bit easier, you've got some dashes for some mobility. But what if you do want to get close? Well, that's where Saber mode comes into play. Now, in Buzz's Saber mode, he becomes a high hit point melee brawler that deals 2,400 damage per shot in a wide arc, like BB's. His movement speed in this mode is very fast, and what's even faster is his unload speed. Now, he still has the same dash for a gadget, but for his super, he flies into the air and then flies forward, slamming the ground and knocking back enemies while dealing almost 2,000 damage. Now, you're going to think that this is going to be unfair, but stick with me here because I'll tell you why it's not. But let's put him up against all of the throwers to see how he does. Now, as you watch the pure destruction of these throwers, I want you to notice something. Do you see it? Yeah, in Saber mode, his unload speed is absolutely cracked. He can unload all 3 shots exceedingly fast, so in less than a second, he can deal 7,200 damage to these throwers, which makes this an absolutely skewed fight. So then, you might be wondering, why did I put him up against the throwers? Well, that's because in a game, Saber mode is probably the most deadly to them, and there are a couple big reasons for this. First off is that movement speed. No thrower can match the foot speed of Buzz in Saber mode. Secondly is his trait. In this mode, he has the tank trait where he gains his super while he's being damaged, but why does that matter? Well, if you give Saber mode Buzz his super, then you are no longer safe behind any wall as a thrower. He can fly up into the air and then leap on you, combining his super damage plus his normal damage, and in less than 1 second, he can burst out over 9,000 damage. Now, if you're bad at math, just know that as a thrower, that means you're dead. Now, if you thought that Saber Mode did a lot of damage, well, you haven't seen anything yet, because let me introduce you to Wing Mode Buzz. In Wing Mode, he becomes a mid-range damage dealer that does more damage up close than he does far away, similar to like Leon shots. He fires 2 projectiles, and each one up close deals 2,000 damage each. Now in this mode, he still has a very fast movement speed, and for his super, he flies forward, dropping bombs along his path. Now the downfall of his Wing Mode is his health. It's not the highest, and especially having to be so close to deal the damage. So let's see just how big of a liability that is against the damage dealers. As we move through these interactions against what are supposed to be the hardest hitting, most damaging brawlers in Brawl Stars, Wing Mode Buzz Lightyear makes almost all of them look pathetic. Lola, who's a great tank stopper, well, she gets stopped. Pearl at full heat, yeah, she gets cooked. Tara? No. Eve? Not a chance. RT though? Yeah, not even close. Clancy at stage 2 gets boiled, and Mo cannot cut it. Okay, so how about Saber Buzz versus Wing Mode Buzz? Yeah, so about that. And I think that you know what would happen against Laser Mode as well. Now, Spike gets absolutely disintegrated, but Surge does do a little damage as he can unload fast as well. So that means that the only brawler that stands in the way of Wing Mode Buzz in a clean sweep of all of the damage dealers is Chester, cycled to his 3rd and his 4th shot. Finally, we have someone who beats him, but only if he's cycled to those shots. Any other way, he loses. Now, you may be thinking right now that Wingsuit Buzz is clearly the best mode for him, right? Well, not so fast. I mean, yes, up close, it does deal the most damage, and yes, he also has a lot of movement speed, gadgets, and supers to get around the map. And while, yeah, it wouldn't be hard to make the case for this mode being the best, I don't think that we've quite seen the full picture yet. So let's take another look at the other modes versus some other brawlers. So in terms of burst damage output, Laser Mode is objectively the weakest of the 3, but that's not to say that it's weak. Many times as a long-range brawler, you'll find yourself poking at these support brawlers, and he does really well in this case. Well, I mean, except for Pam. Not very many people can beat Pam up close. Well, except for Wing Mode. Ruffs and Laser Mode both have fast unload speeds and go down at about the same time. Gray's star power saves him and gives him the win, and he makes it a pretty decent fight with Doug up close, even though it's not quite the fight that he would normally want to be in. So in a game, this is actually a really great matchup for Laser Mode. The big reason here is his range. He can flat out outrange most of these brawlers, and when pressed, he can also unleash his super, and if you can land all of these shots, it does do a pretty decent amount of damage. Now, his bird damage against these brawlers is not probably the most advantageous, as many of these brawlers can heal, but his dash is very useful. Like if a Kit decides to jump on you, you can zip out of the way and stand a chance while wasting his super. And speaking of supers, the controllers make great use of their supers, so let's see how Saber Mode does against that class. The controllers aren't known for putting out a ton of damage. It's more about slow building pressure, and Saber Mode is the exact opposite of that. His damage comes at you extremely fast, but Griff can beat pretty much anyone, except for, you know, that Wing Mode. However, as you see against Gale here, once he runs out of shots, they do not reload very fast. Gene doesn't have enough damage to finish him off, and Mr. P, if he gets 2 bounces, comes close. Both Squeak and Lou cannot take him down, and even Otis, with his high damage, still falls short. Willow never had a chance to build up that damage, but once again, we can see that if Saber Mode runs out of shots, he's susceptible to losing. Sandy lasts 3 shots, but not 4. And Charlie, even with her buff, gets squashed. And while Amber burns, she doesn't last long enough to scorch. Now in a game, yeah, this is not a great matchup. We've got brawlers like Mr. P that did pretty well in an interaction, but with Saber Mode charging you, you're not getting double bounces, and you do not have enough damage to deal with that sort of aggression. And that is what Saber Mode is all about. Aggression and burst damage. He's not only fast, he has dashes and supers to move around the map as well, and he will be tearing into you faster than a knife fight in a phone booth. That's not good, in case you were curious. Now, what's also not good is when an assassin meets wing mode Buzz Lightyear. Now, assassins like to surprise you and attack quickly, but my question is, do you really want to attack a brawler who up close deals 12,000 damage in 1 second? Mortis doesn't seem to think so, and even Buzz with his high hit points goes down in a jiffy. Fang faces the same fate while Miko is as elusive as ever. Melody can't hit the high note, and Lily, well, she probably should have just stayed in the Shadow Realm. Crow is gone quicker than my money when my wife has my credit card. And even Leon went poof. Cordelius got mushroomed, and yes, I just turned that into a verb. And finally, Kenji gets sliced and diced. Now in the game, I don't think this is nearly as bad as it looked for the assassins here, and for one reason, and that is the initial surprise and burst. Most of the assassins will get the drop on Buzz, and when they do, they will deal some initial damage. Wing mode does not have a lot of hit points, and just that opening is going to be enough that most assassins will be able to comfortably take him down. However, if you are playing wing mode, you do have some means of escape with a dash and a super, so you can use them defensively as well. But on the flip side, you can use that super to get aggressive on these brawlers as well and act like an assassin yourself. You super up to their feet, and once you're there, as we saw, there is no stopping that damage. But what if you do want to get in a close-up fight against wing mode? Well, our last set, the tanks, are itching just for that fight. Bull doesn't let Buzz get off those shots, and since Primo just got a recent health buff, that alone lets him win this fight. Rose's damage just isn't enough to stand toe-to-toe with wing mode, but Daryl's is more than enough to win, and easily. Jackie sends that massive damage back at Buzz, and while 12k is a lot of damage, Frank has almost 15,000 hit points. BB swings are too slow for the onslaught, and Ash, well, he just gets thrown into the trash real quick. Hank comes close, but is one bubble short. Buster, even up close, gets beat, and Meg gets knocked out of her mech, and then even with her shield goes down. And Draco at this range doesn't get his max damage and he loses. So then, you've seen every brawler 1v1 versus Buzz Lightyear in his different modes. And at this point, you're probably thinking that wing mode is totally OP. But let me set the record straight right here, right now. The most OP mode for Buzz Lightyear is not his wing mode. His best mode, far and away, is his saber mode. Let me tell you why. It's not that his other two modes are not good. In fact, if they were their own brawlers, they would easily be in like at least A tier. Laser mode is an effective ranged brawler. The burn damage is nice, the super is just okay, and he does only have normal movement speed, but he's good. Wing mode, of course, by far has the most raw damage at close range, but at his max range, it's pretty underwhelming. Wing mode is probably going to be played more like an assassin, building up a super and then flying into action to destroy brawlers at close range, and for that, he is very effective. However, saber mode has almost everything. The fact that its unload speed is almost instant is like getting 3 BB shots off in the time that it takes her to get just 1. He has a very fast movement speed, he has high health, and an incredible super. And on top of that, he has a tank trait that allows him to build up that super even faster. You use your super on someone, you knock them back and deal damage, and then almost instantly burst out another 7,200 damage. So that's 9,000 damage with a knockback. Plain and simple, Saber mode Buzz Lightyear is beyond broken. It's not S tier, it's infinity tier. And aside from some modes like Bounty, where laser mode will actually do very well, Saber mode Buzz Lightyear is absolutely going to dominate Brawl Stars for the duration of this event. It is like Larry and Lori level broken, and everyone is going to get him right away, so prepare yourself for the carnage. Also, prepare yourself for another 1v1 video tomorrow. Peace out.